We are now joined by Aisa Kirabo Kacyra, who is the Deputy Executive Director of UN Habitat, as well as the former mayor of Kigali in Rwanda. Good morning to you, ma'am, and welcome.
Thank you very much, Yusuf.
Obviously not your first time to South Africa. You've been here before. Your impressions of our country?
It's lovely. And I've got good and fond memories of this because when I was mayor, we had a very warm sister-city relationship with two cities, with the city of Tshwane, Pretoria. It was then led by, I think she's now Deputy Minister.
Dr. Gwen Ramaphosa?
Dr.
Yes.
Gwen, a friendly
And now the cousin leads it.
Yes, it's been really good. And then we also had a sister-city relationship with Durban. And by then it was led by Mayor Mlaba. And then we also had a big local government platform. There was Salga here. We had Ralga in Rwanda. This is the local government association. And the chair at the time was Father Mkatwa.
Yes,
and I was the vice.
Yes.
So
interesting.
Lots of
Metropolis, you've obviously been involved for quite a while. Do you see an organization and a project like this really making a difference?
Yes, I do believe it does make a difference. And I want, first of all, to really even appreciate the fact that they have, it's not only the presence of an organization, but the activity and the ability of the organization to bring together people to partner and network. I think, Yusuf, what is becoming increasingly important in a globalizing world, in a fast urbanizing world, is for leaders and communities to reach out, to network, to partner, to share experience, to be willing to learn from best practices, also from maybe even share what has not gone right. And it is important that Metropolis creates this platform that brings together leaders who are normally very busy, especially mayors, who are almost overwhelmed in every individual city, who run a risk of feeling isolated. That it brings them together and brings us also together so that we can discuss on how we can really harness the benefits of urbanization by supporting it with good governance, with good proactive planning and designing, and facilitation of economic employment.
Let's chat about UN Habitat.
Yes.
What is your functions and what are you trying to achieve?
UN Habitat's mandate within the UN system is to foster sustainable urban development and human settlements. It's a very big mandate because, as you're aware, almost half the world population today is urbanized. And we do this by, first of all, we do it twofold. We carry out research. We have a lot of normative work, and then we also are operational. Both our normative and operational work is done through partnerships with our sister agencies within the UN. And for instance, the issues that we are discussing here today, talking about safety and security of cities, we do it from the aspect of looking at safety and security of the women and the girl child. We do it with youth, we do it with UN Women and UNICEF. And we have other programs that we do that mainly to support urban governance, to support urban planning and design proactively, to support urban economy, so that finally the human settlements and the basic services are provided in a very sustainable manner, and we also respond to disasters in an urban setting.
Is the African continent a large focus for you?
It certainly is. It certainly is because, one, today's urbanizing world, that the pace of urbanization in Africa is much faster than elsewhere. Actually, it is 1.5 times faster than the global. That is one. Secondly, from the last, when you look even at our program or project portfolio, for the last 20 years, we have done quite a lot of work in Africa, also in Southeast Asia and Latin America. The North has been much more facilitative. We also have some operations in Eastern Europe, but we do realize that there's a lot of potential. As development goes on, there's a lot that much of this development is taking place in cities or in towns. And it is important that governments be supported to ensure that they've got the right fundamental principles to support the urbanization process.
I say you speak about safety and security. What is the role of especially metropolitan municipalities in creating a safer environment? And do you think we'll overcome this problem? What do we do?
Yeah, well, what I would say is that the safety and security issue becomes very fundamental in a fast urbanizing world, because urbanization is about agglomeration. And as people come together, this creates an opportunity if it is well led and if it's well managed. And what do I mean by being well led and well managed? First and foremost, it has to be inclusive. All community members have to be part and parcel of the decision making, of the implementation of the decisions, and the benefits that are accrued to it. Again, from the research that we've been doing, we can see that as the world urbanizes, the urban divide is increasing. The differences in income levels between the poor and the rich is certainly increasing. And as you mentioned, also in Africa, the slum growth, the rate of slum growth is quite high. And that is like one challenge. So it is important that when it comes to safety and security, that is the role of leadership. And that is the role of the mayor and government to mobilize all members of a town or a city to be part and parcel of this.
And how do we do that? And what do we do?
Well, I think the first thing to do is to create a platform or to create a mechanism of dialogue and coordination. Because every process of development begins off with discussing, planning, and implementation. So it is important that in the planning process, in the implementation process, the community members are all engaged. It's really through sound governance. And sound governance, I would say here that the more you decentralize it, the more you empower people, the more you focus on people, the more even you reach out to specific groups and ensure that as a leader you're able to pick the voices and the needs of the different groups of the people, then you will be sure that you've got a very sound urban governance system. That is one. Secondly, it goes with a right legal and policy framework, because now the issue with in a town or a city is how do you separate the public from personal or individual interests, public from private land, public infrastructure, private infrastructure. How is that planned? How is it managed? How do you ensure that issues of because there are unique things that are immediately much more needed in a town or a city, like transport. How do you ensure that the transport system that you have in a city is inclusive, that everybody can somehow afford it? How about sanitation facilities? How about housing? So it's really about the existing legal framework, but fundamentally the level of engagement of the communities in the development, and of course the empowerment of these communities to be able to access jobs. I think that's another thing that we're having around here, that the level of unemployment is quite high. And we will talk about governance, but certainly it has to be linked to economic transformation.
If you have one message for the mayors who are here today, what will that message be?
If I had one message, it would be that the primary role of the mayor is to facilitate people-centered economic transformation of the city that they need. And people, much as they may look vulnerable today, the moment you set on empowering them, educating them, supporting them to have the basic services, right to, then you will unleash a lot of potential, and that will be opportunities.
You were mayor of Kigali in Rwanda from 2006 to 2011. What were some of the lessons that you learned, obviously during a very difficult period in the history of Rwanda? Some of the key lessons that you learned?
Sure, I think one is what I've mentioned is that there's a lot of power, there is a lot of potential, there is a lot of there's a lot of potential, and there's a lot of capacity to achieve and overcome challenges when you give people the right to participate in what they're doing. That's one. Secondly, it is important for the leader to look beyond the questions of today and think long term. And so even with Kigali, we were planning for that time but we invested in master planning for the next 30 to 40 years. You shouldn't plan a city to address issues of today only, because 10, 30 years, you will be destroying what you're planning today. Third, reach out, network, and seek out for resources. You need really, I feel that you may have the goodwill, but if you don't have resources, mobilize resources, look into building municipal financing, and then you'll be able to deliver on your mandate.
Lastly, Aisa, what do you think is going to come out from Metropolis? Will there be any concrete decisions coming out from here, or is it just going to be another talk shop?
I think this comes in at a time when it's important that, as I said, reaching out there are good results to come out of here. Why? One, there's a history. I was just talking to Mr. Tom, whom we will be meeting soon. He is talking about what they're doing in the US. The whole world is realizing that urbanization is something that is bringing on opportunities and challenges not only for the South, but for the North and South. It's global. Now, the world today is discussing where leadership should focus post-2015, beyond the Millennium Development Goals of 2015. What is happening? This is the timing. So from Metropolis, I'm sure they will be able to commit to strongly networking at like a local government level, to also engage governments to network and foster for a better focus on urbanization in the post-2015 debate. And as UN Habitat, we also have another opportunity, the Habitat 3. In 2016, we're having a conference to focus or reflect on how we have delivered on our mandate and how we can improve. This is again another opportunity for Metropolis and the mayors and all our stakeholders in development. And the consultations are taking place in the next 2 to 3 months at the country level and at subnational level, including cities. Again, what we are sharing here is going to be part of that process. So I think it's an opportune moment in history, in the sense that at all these levels, there is a reflection. And it is important that, as I said, while we are planning for today, we had better plan for 30, 50 years to come if we are to ensure sustainable development.
Well, good luck and thank you very much for joining us. That's the UN Executive Director for Habitat, Aisa Kirabo, Kacyra, and we hope that you'll enjoy the rest of your stay in South Africa. And I'm sure you're going to be very active on Mandela Day on Thursday.
Certainly, unfortunately, I'll have to leave, but I've been praying for him. We're very proud of him, and we also appreciate the resilience. We pay our sympathy to the family that is going through not a very easy period, but we are with them because he's an icon. We love him and we pray for him. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you too.